that incidentally was a little taste of the blues. And you know, the strange thing about the blues is you don't necessarily have to have a title. All you got to do is say, man, I want something in F, and these guys will play the blues, and this is what this was here. They just sit down and do it. Blues and jazz go hand in hand, as you know, and that's what this is all about tonight. I'm recalling, and I'm going to call one of these people here, men and women. You notice a lady on stage here. She has contributed as much as the men, believe it or not, to the to the legacy of jazz in the Flint area. Her name is Dorothy Patton. One of the more interesting things about Dorothy, just a year ago, or possibly a year ago, Jimmy Smith came to town, and believe it or not, they wanted Jimmy. You naturally know that Jimmy plays the organ. He's the guy who introduced the organ or turned the organ into a jazz instrument. Jimmy Smith came to town. He didn't have an organ to play, and he had to call this lady. And this is what I mean. She was there when needed. I say the same thing about our legendary Sherm Mitchell. He's always there whenever you need them. Most of these musicians. One thing about a jazz musician is the fact that they are a different breed of animal. They are more compassionate people than the average person. They have a feeling for each other. This makes them rather unique. Dorothy Patton, for example, when Smith came to town, they called Dorothy, and Dorothy made her Hammond B3 available. Dorothy, come on over here. Let's you and I talk about it.
While she's moving over here, while Dorothy's moving over here, you know what? I'd really like to have Dave Kozal come and sit at one of the tables with us, and I'd also like to have Gary Allen if he's out there. Yeah, Gary, why don't you come on and sit at the tables? You're all part of this history, and I think I'd like to have Dave up here too, because he's part of the ongoing scene, and that's what we're concerned with. Come on, Dave. Grab a table.
All right.
Now, if Connie's here, let's get Connie up here before we can. Come on, Connie, grab a chair at one of these tables here.
Is Connie here?
Lois, come on up, Lois.
Lois Laughlin is here.
Let's get these musicians on stage, because you know what? Let me get over here. No, that's all right. Family group, come on in. Here, let's take that stool.
You all are aware of how informal we are. That's the way this thing is. Jazz people are informal people. We don't believe in this formality bit, and it's really not the best of things. You two will get settled down over there. Dorothy and I will get it on over here. You're pretty today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When you reminisce very often and look back on the days of yore.
Right, yeah, a lot these days.
Tell me a little bit about your early days. You played, for example, you taught. I mean, there are any numbers of people you've taught, and you've worked with any numbers of people in this area.
I've been a professional musician since I was 16 years old in Flint. I grew up in Flint. I went to Roosevelt School, Dewey School.
How did you happen to get wound up or wrapped up into jazz?
I wanted to be a concert pianist. I studied 4 consecutive years at Baker's University. I don't know if Baker's Music Conservatory. I don't know how many people know that Baker's Business College used to be a music conservatory years ago. It was in the old Metropolitan Building across from Durant Hotel on North Saginaw. I don't know if that's North or South Saginaw. But I studied there.
You realize this is kind of dating you, but we don't mind that. We love you just the same.
I'm glad to be here. I've seen Sherm come and go. He's not gone yet, but he's on his way.
Saying a lot for you, Sherm Mitchell.
You know, Dorothy and I have been working together probably, 35 years. 35 years we worked together. God, we had some tremendous bands, tremendous people. 35, learned a lot from that lady.
X over there is... we played together 14 consecutive years. We've been all across the world together and back. We've been to Spain, we've been to Italy, we've been to Virgin Islands, we've been to Australia, we've been all over Canada, all over the United States, all the way to Greenland. And it's cold, it's 90 degrees below anything up there.
You mean there are jazz appreciating people over there?
Well, you've got the U.S. Army, U.S. and Canadian Air Force and Army bases in those places. Thule Air Force Base in Greenland.
But you were supposed to become a conservatory
Pianist. That's what I wanted
and
to be.
what made the difference?
Money.
So
Great old money. There was not enough. My family was poor, as most people were in those days, and there just wasn't enough money for me to study. And I met Milt Buckner,
the organist.
organist,
Yeah.
and when I started playing piano, he was playing piano then. And Milt showed me my first jazz chord, a C dominant seventh chord, and I thought I was into something. And showed me how to play Honeysuckle Rose with my right hand and T for two with my left hand, and I was gone. I was a star. You know?
You've come a long way since then.
That did it, yeah. Well, that was many years ago. So,
Tell me
years ago.
tell me about the lean years.
Do you really want to hear about those?
Yeah, this is part of the
The
history.
lean years, you mean music-wise?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, we were all struggling. I can remember when one person would get a gig and try to use as many of us as we could on one gig because we may not get another gig for another month.
So they were hard to come by.
They were very hard to come by. There were a few places to play. There was lots of segregation in the clubs in those days. Excuse this with not lack of respect for anybody. He's asking me, and I'm answering him. So please excuse me for what I've...
You don't
but
owe
they
anybody
could,
apology.
Well, they could come to our clubs, but white people could, but we couldn't go to their clubs. And so we didn't work in them. Motor City Club, I'll give Nate Bosley, and that's Doug Bosley that owns Bosley's now, his father. He would hire at least anywhere from 4 to 6 musicians. It was a white club. It was a membership club. Blacks could not go into it. But he hired predominantly black musicians in there, and we were thankful for that. So just about everybody up here worked at Bosley's Motor City at some time or other, because I stayed there 4 consecutive years in that one spot, 6 and 7 nights a week.
What was the favorite house in the Flint area?
They were all jumping and cooking. You mean the clubs?
Sure. I'm recalling one that not the Blue Note.
RG Club? Royal Garden?
That one and one other one.
Yeah, Royal Gardens, the Unique was very popular. The Golden Leaf.
Harold's?
Well, Harold's came later. He came in, what did he come? I was on the road when Harold's came, in the 60s.
50s.
I was on the road. I wasn't even here then.
How many were? How often did you work in with these holes in the walls? The quickly thrown up clubs.
Oh, I spent a lifetime in those. And then these other things came in my second lifetime.
But was there a point in your life during that career that you decided that you wanted to give it up?
No, it hasn't been that bad that I wanted to give it up. What I did, I gave up Flint when I couldn't survive, because this was all I knew how to do. I am a musician. I've been one all my life. I don't know how to do anything else, so now I'm trying to teach it.
You say you give up Flint. You mean did you abandon Flint? You just leave
I
Flint?
didn't abandon it, but I had to leave it to survive. Where was I going to work? All of a sudden, there were no clubs. There was no nothing.
So it was a matter of survival.
Survival. So I left and went on the road. I stayed on the road about 20 years. Off and on, more than that, 25, 30 years off and on.
What was when you say on the road, what do you mean on the road?
Traveling. I did a USO tour first for the U.S. and Canadian Air Force bases. I played in, that's when I went to Italy and Spain and played the bases there.
What kind of reception?
Very good, excellent reception. And then X and me, our agent called us on Friday and told us to be in, what was that, Mandan, North Dakota, Monday, opening at 9 o'clock Monday night. And we had a little Ford and rented a trailer, and I put four retread tires on it. And believe it or not, these things lasted. They took us to Mandan, North Dakota. They brought us back to Milwaukee, took us up to Escanaba, southern Ohio, Indianapolis, Chillicothe, Ohio, and everywhere. And I came home for a break and parked the car in the driveway, and all the tires went down.
What kind?
That's true. That sounds like a joke, but it's not. But I think they realized that we were hungry, and they just didn't put us down.
What kind of reception did you get when you were in the Dakotas? There weren't too many black folk in there. They didn't see too many black folk. They saw the Indians.
We didn't see any, but we saw lots of Indians, and I met, what's the Champagne?
Lawrence Welk.
Lawrence Welk. Mm-hmm. My first celebrity, I met him there because that's his home. And we were in Mandan, and his ranch is not far from Mandan. And so the owner, this club that we played, by the way, was the first club that he played when he was a kid. It was his first job. So the man was telling me, he said, this man, Lawrence Welk, played this club for my father. He said this was his first job, and he said he made $300 a week for the band. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. He said, do you like Lawrence Welk's music? I said, no. And he said, you don't think? I said, no, I didn't say that he doesn't play well. You asked me, did I like it? I said, he plays well. He said, wouldn't you like to play like him? I said, no. So he said, he'll be in here in a few minutes. So he came, and the man did exactly what he said. When Lawrence Welk came in, he brought him up on stage, and he said, he introduced us, and he said,
you turned him around.
Dorothy said that she doesn't like your music. And he started laughing, and he said, I asked her, did she want to play like you? And she said, no. And he said, well, she couldn't play like me. Neither could I play like she plays. He said, so that's fair enough. We can't play like each other. She's Dorothy, I'm Lawrence Welk, you know. So let's forget that. So we all laughed about it. It was a joke.
Tell me some of the other great names that you met.
Oh, I've met so many of them. Where do you want me to start?
Well, any place. Who was your favorite giant?
Jimmy Smith.
That's not bad company.
That's where I come from, Jimmy Smith. I guess everybody does. Bill Doggett was before him. I knew Bill personally.
Bill was a fine.
Yeah, I worked with some of the people in his band, Clifford Scott, and guitar player.
If we had an organ here, I would ask you to go play the organ, but since we don't have an organ here, I'll let you off the hook this time.
I'm so happy for that.
Thanks for sharing this with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Dorothy Ashby, and hasn't she been gorgeous? Yeah. How about some, what do you think of that?
Yeah. You know, I think that we've only touched the surface on what Dorothy's about and people she knows and the things she's done. It used to surprise me, some of the people that would come up to her and say, hey, Dorothy, and I'd say, ooh, you know him? Yeah. Top flight players. Yeah, they were the best that you had. And everywhere I went, they all know Dorothy. You know, I traveled a little bit. Say, you know a lady named Dorothy Patton? They say, you mean she's still alive? Just today, I was talking with a.
The next time they ask you that, tell them that I said I'm living forever.
All right, okay. Just was in Detroit today, and one of the trumpet players down there says, I said, well, I got to get back. I said, I told him a little bit about it, and I said, I got Dorothy on the show. She says, Dorothy who? Dorothy Patton. Plays organ. I said, yeah. He says, she's still alive? I said, well, I'm going to tell her that. He says, no. He says, I had a run-in with her once, man. I don't want no more of that. So, Dorothy, you're well known all over. You know.
Thanks, Sherm.